Somebody handed me a Valentine's card in a bottle. That is genuinely the first thought I had when I sprayed this on my wrist. Jimmy Choo, I want Choo with love, and before you roll your eyes at the name, before you write this off as a department store shelf filler dressed in pink ribbons, stay with me. Because this fragrance did something I did not expect. It stopped me mid-sentence. I was on a call, sprayed it, and completely lost my train of thought. That almost never happens. Now here is the tease I am leaving for later in this video. There is something about the dry down on this fragrance that makes it punch well above its category. And I mean that in a very specific way that I think will genuinely surprise a few of you who have already written Jimmy Choo off as a safe, commercial house. Stick around for that. Jimmy Choo as a fragrance house often gets unfairly dismissed. People hear the name, they think shoes, they think accessible luxury, they assume the perfumes are an afterthought, a licensing deal slapped onto a fashion brand to generate revenue. And honestly, for a few of their early releases, that criticism was fair. But the I Want Choo line changed something. It showed that the house was willing to lean into a specific fantasy, glamorous, unapologetically feminine, but with genuine craftsmanship underneath the glitter. Jimmy Choo has always been about desire. The brand was built on the idea that a shoe could make you feel like the most powerful person in the room. Their fragrance philosophy follows the same logic. They want you to feel wanted. They want to bottle aspiration. And with love specifically, this is their most romantic interpretation of that idea. It is the house at its most emotionally direct. No pretension, no avant-garde detours. Just a very deliberate, very well-executed statement of intent. Right. Let us talk about what this thing looks like on your dresser, because it is genuinely beautiful. The bottle is a deep, jewel-toned red, almost a burgundy, with this gorgeous facette shape that catches the light in a way that feels expensive. It is not just pink. It is richer than that. More considered. The cap is weighty, satisfying to remove, and the overall silhouette has this elegant, tapered quality that sits between old-school glamour and modern minimalism. The 60 ml size feels right in the hand. Not too petite, not oversized. There is a delicacy to it. The spray mechanism is smooth, no spluttering, no waste, which matters more than people acknowledge when you are paying for quality liquid. The packaging box matches the bottle, deep red, gold lettering, clean typography. It communicates luxury without screaming it. If you are buying this as a gift, and honestly this is a brilliant gift, it lands with impact when you open the box. It looks like it costs more than it does. That is always a good sign. That first spray. Here is what happens. There is this immediate burst, bright, slightly fizzy, like champagne mixed with something floral and warm. It announces itself confidently but not aggressively. The projection in those first 30 seconds is impressive. This is not a shy fragrance. It has presence. You will be noticed. Now, without a formal note breakdown provided by the house for this particular edition, what I am experiencing is my nose doing the detective work. And what I get on that opening is something fruity and sparkling, think ripe red berries with an almost sherbet edge, but it is not cheap or candid. There is a freshness that stops it from being cloying. Underneath that initial brightness there is already the suggestion of something warmer, something almost powdery, beginning to rise. It is inviting without being generic. It smells like a cocktail you would order at a place where the menu has no prices. Confident. Celebratory. But more interesting than you initially give it credit for. About 20 minutes in, that sparkling opening begins to soften, and what rises from underneath is where this fragrance really starts to earn its name. The heart of I Want Choo with Love is unmistakably floral, but it is a warm, plush florality. Not the cold, clinical floral of a gin-changing room. This is soft, rounded, almost embraceable. There is a rose quality here, but it is not a straight rose. It feels blended with something slightly creamy, slightly musky, as though the flower has been warmed in your palms before it reaches your nose. It is intimate. And then layered beneath that there is what I can only describe as a velvet quality, something that makes the fragrance feel tactile rather than just scented. About 45 minutes in, I noticed something that genuinely surprised me. There is a slight warmth emerging, almost a spiced quality, very subtle, like the ghost of pink pepper or something resinous, that adds a complexity you absolutely do not expect from the name, the bottle, or the marketing. This is where the fragrance stops being pretty and becomes genuinely interesting. Okay. This is the moment I teased at the beginning. The dry down. 3 to 4 hours in, what remains on my skin is something that I want to call gourmand adjacent without it actually being gourmand. There is a warmth here, softly sweet, slightly woody, with this almost skin-like musky base that is deeply comfortable. It is the olfactory equivalent of pulling on a cashmere jumper. It settles into something that smells genuinely luxurious rather than loud. And here is the thing. I have smelled £200 fragrances with worse dry downs than this. The base On With Love has a staying power and a richness that makes you feel like you are wearing something far more expensive than £72. That is not me being generous. That is my honest assessment after multiple wears. The soul of this fragrance, what remains when everything else has burned away, is genuinely beautiful. Soft without being boring. Warm without being heavy. Personal without being niche. Right, the practical stuff. Because longevity matters when you are spending your money. On skin, I am getting a solid 7 to 8 hours before it becomes a skin scent. And even as a skin scent in those later hours, it is still detectable and still gorgeous. On fabric, on a scarf, on the inside of a collar, this lasts considerably longer. Wear it on a Thursday, you will still catch a whisper of it on Friday morning. That is a strong performance for a fragrance at this price point. Sillage sits in the medium range, which I think is exactly right for what this fragrance is trying to do. It is not a room filler in the way some heavy orientals are. But it will absolutely be noticed when you walk past someone in a corridor. You will get comments. People within conversational distance will be aware of you. It is a social sillage, present and beautiful without being imposing. In terms of timing, I think this fragrance peaks in the evening. Afternoon into evening is its natural habitat. That warmth in the base suits lower light and cooler temperatures beautifully. It is not a morning office fragrance, it is a dinner fragrance, an event fragrance, an occasion fragrance. Let me paint a few pictures here. If you are the type who has a signature scent philosophy, who likes to smell like a person rather than a mood board, and that signature is somewhere in the world of warm, romantic florals, this could genuinely be your fragrance. It is distinctive enough to be memorable but wearable enough to be daily. If you are looking for something to wear on a first date, a wedding, a celebration where you want to feel genuinely beautiful, this is an incredibly strong choice. It performs in rooms. It photographs in the memory. If you are someone who oscillates between sweet and sophisticated and can never quite find a fragrance that honors both, With Love is that synthesis. It is sweet without being juvenile. It is sophisticated without being cold. Now, who should not wear this? If you are a fragrance minimalist, if you want something transparent, aquatic, or cerebral, this is not your bottle. If you are someone who actively dislikes floral or powdery warmth, if your ideal scent is crisp and linear, step away. This fragrance is unabashedly romantic. It does not apologize for wanting to be beautiful. If that is not your language, it will feel like too much. Let us do the maths. £72 for 60 millilitres. That is £1.20 per milliliter. In today's market, that is genuinely reasonable for an Eau de Parfum with this level of performance. When you compare that to some designer houses charging double for weaker longevity and thinner construction, Jimmy Choo looks very good here. Are you paying for the name? Partially, yes. That is always part of the equation with fashion house fragrances. But here is what I want to say clearly, you are also paying for a well-crafted liquid. The performance justifies the price. You are not just buying a logo on a red bottle. If you want a cheaper alternative that scratches a similar itch, look at Zara's Emotions collection or some of the Ghost fragrances. There are moments of that warm floral DNA in the more affordable market. But the longevity and that dry down? You will not fully replicate it at half the price. My score for I Want Choo With Love is a 7.5 out of 10. Here is the specific reasoning. It loses points for not quite reaching the level of complexity that would make it truly memorable in a crowded field. It is not a fragrance that will define a generation. But it gains points, significant points, for that exceptional dry down, for the longevity, for the presentation, and for the sheer wearability. This is a fragrance that delivers on its emotional promise, and in a market full of scents that promise everything and deliver almost nothing, that matters enormously. You can pick this up directly from p11.com. They stock it and I will drop the link in the description. Straightforward purchase, good pricing, and it is a far better experience than your average department store counter. I Want Choo with Love is a fragrance that earns the right to be romantic by backing it up with genuine quality. The dry down alone justifies the price tag, and that is not something I say lightly at this price point. If you are looking for a warm, plush, occasion-worthy fragrance that will absolutely turn heads without requiring you to remortgage, this belongs on your radar. Now here is what I want to know from those of you who already own this. Did that dry down keep you coming back, or did you end up reaching past it for something else? Because I have a feeling this is one of those fragrances that either becomes deeply loyal or gets quietly replaced. Tell me in the comments. If honest fragrance reviews with no agenda and no hype are what you are looking for, subscribe. I post every week and I promise I will never lie to you about a fragrance just because it comes in a pretty bottle.